Hey guys, I see you're all out of time with your freedom of ability to communicate in this country. So today's episode of Ask the Mystic is about Telepathy 101. First things first, you don't need to be a special psychic person in order to develop this ability. It's your birthright, and you need to understand what your learning style is in order to get started. Let's begin. Telepathy is normal. This is an everyday skill that all people can do, and I promise you're already doing it, and you probably don't realize that you're doing it, and that's only because of movies and TV shows that have you convinced that mind-to-mind communication is like Sookie Stackhouse having a conversation with someone in her mind. I'm not here to convince you that it's real. I accept this as a fact. So if you're on that page with me, then you're in the right place. It is a holographic multisensory experience, and it usually aligns with your natural learning style. So if you are a visual learner, you're more likely to receive this kind of information visually. If you are an auditory learner and you're used to learning from hearing things, you are more likely to hear things non-locally. Also, if you are a kinesthetic style learner where you need to touch things in order to work with them physically, if you are someone who builds things, then your gift will present it to you that way through sensory information like touch. And if you are a spatial learner, you're more likely to be a dancer or an athlete or something like that. A spatial learner is someone who learns things through movement. Now, if you are a visual learner, then telepathy may come with an image of the person who is sending you a thought or an idea. If you are an auditory learner, you may hear the sound of that person's voice in your mind. And if you are a spatial learner, this information will come to you because you are in movement, doing something like physically repetitive, like running or swinging in a rocking chair or something like that. And if you are a spatial learner, you may be more one to cohesively put together many of these different learning styles into one big picture. So you're not going to be limited in the way that you receive the information. If you are a kinesthetic learner, you may receive information by touching it or holding it. So a thrift store or an antique store may be a good place to practice that skill. So most of us are going to be receiving non-local information in multiple different ways. It can be an auditory, it can be visual, it can just be knowing things like claircognizance. And you're not necessarily certain that it is telepathy, but it can be. So if you want to get started on practicing these skills, this is what I recommend that you start doing. Meditate every day. It doesn't matter if you do it for hours and hours. 5 minutes is a good start. Get started somewhere. Get into the practice of meditating. Meditating is not about stopping all thoughts, okay? It's awareness. It's observing. Observe your mind every day. Make it a habit. Keep a journal. Log the date and the time when you notice information coming to you that you think may be psychically received information. Don't upload it to a diary that is scraped by any AI. Don't allow your private thoughts to go there, okay? You may also want to begin tracking the cycles of the moon if you don't already do that, because it will have an effect on your ability to do this. And you will start to notice patterns. So keep a journal. You may want to use pen and paper and keep it by your bed, so that way when you wake up from a dream, you can start writing down all of your notes about what happened. You're more likely to be able to receive information very clearly when you are in a theta brainwave state. However, this is usually where we are in a light sleep state, or we are just about to fall asleep, or when we are just waking up. The alpha brainwave state is more likely for those of us to experience these skills and work with them while we are conscious and awake. The alpha state, I'll explain for you really briefly, is when you feel like you are in a flow state or you're daydreaming, something like that. It is a higher frequency level than the Schumann resonance, but the closer that you keep your brainwave state to the Earth's Schumann resonance, that is the geomagnetic vibration of the planet, the easier you will connect to the internet of the Earth. That is the frequency that the Earth is running. And when your brain is running at that same frequency, you have a very, very clear channel to connect with other minds. Okay, so it's either going to be one to one or it's going to be one to many. Start with one to one, okay, because that's the easiest thing to do and it's the most easy to validate with your own experimentation. Now, your brain is naturally going to go from a beta state to an alpha state about 5 times a day. 2 of those times is when you're waking up and when you're falling asleep. The other times you notice your brain is in the alpha state is when you feel like you need the second cup of coffee in the day, or when you feel the afternoon yawns after you've had lunch. Moments like that where you feel slightly tired, you're yawning and stuff, that's usually when you're going to be in that alpha brainwave state. Avoid situations that trigger a fight or flight response. If you are highly adrenalized, your brainwave pattern is going to be too chaotic for you to be able to tune in with any kind of a psychic skill set. Try to practice your skills every single day. If you have a loved one that you are close to, ask if you can practice with them. Okay? When you receive a message alert on your mobile device, see if you can check with your mind before you visually check who the message comes from. Can you accurately identify who is trying to communicate with you in that moment? Do you know that they are going to call you before they do? That is one of the first ways that we can identify that we're experiencing telepathic communication. See if you can determine any more information, the emotion, the content of the message, the identity of the messenger, where are they messaging you from, etc. Keep practicing and taking notes on this. When you validate your own results, you will improve your skill and ability to do this because you're proving to yourself that it's real. You can also do this by doing a guessing game when you play a card game with a friend. See if you can cheat by accurately guessing the cards that they have in their hand before they reveal their hand, etc. It's not unethical if you tell them at the outset what you are trying to do. You could also try playing a game of hide and seek. You could also ask a friend to think of something and ask you to make a drawing of whatever your impressions might be, and allow just the abstract symbolism to flow through you and see what happens. How accurate will you be? Is it enough to prove it to you that it's real? That's what you should be going for. It's not that you're trying to do a parlor trick, you're trying to practice your skills. And the more that you do this, the better at it you will get. Another tip is to work on your emotional freedom. If you are emotionally shut down or shut off, it's going to get in the way of your ability to perfect this skill. Emotional honesty with mind-to-mind communication is not optional. It is required. If you do not have a comfortable and strong relationship with the truth, this is not going to work for you. If you like to lie to other people because it's easy or safe for you, you will not be able to access this ability. Work on being really, really honest with yourself. You will need to find balance with the masculine and feminine aspects of the self. If you are a super masculine person, you will need to find balance with your feminine side and vice versa. This does not mean that you're a girl becoming a tomboy or vice versa. That is not what I mean. I mean you want to be attuned with all of the people around you. You are a receiver who is always on. You are always able to receive information. Okay, so allow this to be the truth for you, and then get ready because we'll just keep going from here with a part 2 and as many as it needs to take. Part 2. It's been backed by neuroscience research. It's been used by intelligence agencies around the world for decades. You should be able to do this stuff too. It's not like you need to be a special person to become a psychic person. You already are psychic and you just haven't known it. So let's continue from the first Telepathy 101. Go check that out if you want to. Please engage with this kind of content if you want to see more of it, and share it with the friends that you want to practice and experiment with. Let's continue. Okay, so when you're listening to music while you read a book or something like that, your brain is multitasking and you are receiving different kinds of information all at once. You can do this with your thoughts as well. Think of them like you have your thoughts in the foreground and your thoughts in the background. What you want to do is start paying more attention to what those thoughts are and making notes about them. It's going to be easier to focus on these dialogues that may be happening, or like a monologue, or maybe any other information that pops into your head, by being in a state of stillness. In nature, turn the volume down on the externalized man-made noises. If you're a person who is sensitive enough to be able to hear the electricity running through your home, you may want to turn off the breakers when you go to sleep at night, or turn off the power that runs just to your sleeping space, so that way you have less distracting noise. That is just one possible technique. It's not the only one that will work. Start thinking about the universe that you live in as a radio that is constantly broadcasting. If you are able to tune yourself in, you will be able to pick up on what that broadcast may be and what information is included in that broadcast. It's not going to be all auditory, it might be visual. It won't just be through audible sound, or maybe something that you hear in your mind. It may come across as visual. It may come through as sensory information like physical touch. It may come through in other ways. Sometimes, this is what my experience with this phenomena is a sudden knowing, aka claircognizance. I don't understand fully where that information is coming from. I just know that I am meant to know it. And sometimes it's very big. You would think about a zip file that you download on your computer, and then you need to go and extract and unzip the file. That is what that phenomena can be like. Some people would describe this experience like a lightning bolt or like a eureka moment, because you don't understand fully why you know the solution to a problem, you just know it. Another tip is to keep yourself away from electronics that are not running on the same frequency as your own natural biorhythm. The wiring in your house could be running at 50 to 60 hertz, but your brain wants to be at a lower frequency. If you are interested in getting more into the science, you want to look at Maxwell's equations. Basically, the dominant frequency is the one that will drown out the other frequencies. This has to do with proximity. It's about time and space. The closer that an electrical frequency is to your physical body, the more likely it is to be the dominant frequency. This means if you want to connect to the so-called radio of the world or the universe, then you will want to disconnect yourself from any other dominant electromagnetic devices. So go out in nature and leave your electronics behind. Leave them in your vehicle, leave them at home, and go out into nature for at least 30 minutes. Sit under a tree, put your feet on the ground, and listen. Let your mind wander. Let it be free. Tune in to the frequency of Mother Earth. Might sound corny, but really, if you bring your energy field into the energy field of a tree, this will help you to ground your energy very quickly. Bringing it again back to our normal learning styles. If you are a visual learner, you want to use your eyes, your peripheral vision, and your inner sight to see if you are able to gather any information that way. If you are an auditory learner, you will want to be listening with your ears. Listen with your mind and see what information you can hear with your mind or through your ears. If you are a kinesthetic learner and you learn by touch, touch the plants around you, touch the tree, hug the tree. This will also help you to perceive more information. Now, if you are more of a spatial learner, let's say if you're used to athleticism and dance and movement and things like that, you're going to want to be moving. Stillness is not the thing that you want to help you tune in. Movement is what you want. So when you're out there in nature, remember to be in an open, receptive, listening state. Make sure you have something with you that you can take notes with. A little pen and paper will help. Don't make it an electronic device. Whenever you turn that on, the electrical signal may influence your energetic field. This is not something that's going to happen in 3 minutes. There's no easy cut and dry way to make this happen deliberately unless you're like me, a FAFO girly, and you want to use electromagnetic pulse technology to unlock the ability to do this. Now, again, I just touched on this very briefly in Telepathy 101, but you also will need to consider that your own biorhythms and your hormones and your stress response to things are also going to impact your ability to receive clear information. If you are highly stressed out, if you're running a high amount of cortisol through the body, the stress hormone, then you're going to have a lot of trouble tuning in. You're not receiving information just because you want to. You receive it through the nervous system, you receive it through the fascia. When I am accessing the Akashic records, and this is what I do in my work, I am accessing the records through my nervous system and my fascia. But yes, it's all kind of connected that way. Get rid of the clutter in your life and the things that make you feel super stressed out. Get rid of that toxic job or that toxic relationship. You want to be living in a state of harmony with yourself. You want to be living in harmony with your friends and your loved ones to start mastering this skill and this ability. You can do this. Keep it simple. Go after joy, happiness, and peace in everything you do. Everything that you do is going to impact your ability to receive this information clearly. So keep yourself in a high vibrational state as much as possible. Accept your negative emotions and allow them to flow through you. Don't hold on to the stuff. It will hold you back. Last thing I'm going to say is just how important sleep is. You need to be getting good sleep. Your sleep regimen or your sleep hygiene is super important. You can't just put it off. If you are not getting good sleep, you're not going to be tuned into anything, let alone yourself. What are you going to do when you can't use your cell phones to stay in touch anymore, or your landlines, or the internet? I have the answer. It's telepathy. Okay, we're on part 3 of Telepathy 101. Let's begin. On today's episode of Ask the Mystic, we are going to talk about the ways in which you can optimize your physical body's well-being in order to keep you primed for mind-to-mind communication. Many of you already know this, but I'm just going to reiterate the importance of breathing and getting lots of oxygen into your body and into your brain. If you are breathing shallow breaths, then it's going to be hard to tune into your own biorhythms, your body's natural frequency. And as far as breathing is concerned, your attention might as well be in tension. Every time you are breathing intentionally, you are drawing your awareness into the body. That's the state of mind and the state of the body that you want to be focused on. So full lung breathing is where you want to be. This can mean that you get into breath work or something like that. Or maybe it means you give yourself more opportunities for those really deep belly laughs. But you want to be breathing with the fullness of the lungs. So this could be bellows breathing, or maybe you just do something that gets you breathing really hard. Like this could be moving, dancing, laughing. On a regular basis, get used to breathing very deeply and also being very aware of your breath. Another way to optimize the physical health is by making sure that oxygen is getting to your brain effectively. So pay attention to the health of the blood in the body and take plenty of B vitamins. B vitamins are going to be found in such foods as sunflower seeds, nutritional yeast, avocado, kombucha, and even spinach. Another thing that will help you optimize yourself physically for the experience of mind-to-mind communication is to learn about the parts of the human brain. Focus on learning about the hippocampus, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the amygdala, and just all the parts in general. When you have an idea about where those reside within your own head, you can try doing a practice where you imagine where these brain parts are and then send your attention to that area Imagine that you are sending additional blood flow consciously to that area of the brain and notice what kind of sensations that you become aware of. Make a journal about it and just see what happens when you check in with your own brain using your consciousness. More than anything else, if you want to optimize yourself for mind-to-mind communication, make it a fun practice project that you can do with a friend or a loved one that you're already close with. You're naturally going to be able to do this with them easier than with a total stranger. So try practicing some things together. You could use a deck of cards and see how often you are able to accurately guess the color of the playing cards. You don't have to be as specific as guessing the number and the suit that the card is in. Just make it something basic. It's not supposed to be about getting it perfect. It's so that you prime your mind to recognize when you get it right and recognize when you don't. It is not about being perfect at the outset, but rather use this so that you can know. But it should be a fun process. If you punish yourself while you're in the learning stage, then you're not going to get there. Your mindset will determine your results in a very great way. This can also mean give yourself a little treat every time you're successful. Let the endorphins come to you when you do get it right, and you're going to get better and better at this. Don't give yourself a hard time if you're not perfect. Let it slide off of you. Run that feeling through you. Just use it as an indicator of your training. Your practice is what's important. It would be very strange if you had 100% accurate results right in the beginning. So you want to keep this realistic for yourself. And don't be hard on yourself when you don't get your guessing games totally accurate. That is not going to help you learn. Reward yourself every time you get a positive, and when you don't get a positive, just move on. Try to get into the practice of doing this for about half an hour a day, if you can. And if you can't do more than that, try 15 minutes. See if you are able to ping your friend or your practice partner and see if you can ask them to call you, but ask them mentally. Ask them with your mind. Another way that you can get their attention is to focus on imagining the sound of their voice saying your name. Just imagine that repeatedly. They may send you a message or call you. Another way that you can practice this is by going into, say, a library and find a well-worn book. Pick it up and hold it. What information comes to you? Another thing that you can practice is, go in a group of people, in a crowd or something. See if you are able to draw someone's gaze towards you without you looking at them. Don't stare at them. See if you can focus on that person mentally with your visual attention, not your eyes, and see if you can get them to look at you. You will be surprised by your results. Anyway, I'd love to hear about your results. We'll just keep going with more of this until I've exhausted all the information that I could possibly think of. Really quick, we're all out of time. We can't use this sort of way to communicate anymore. You're going to have to learn mind-to-mind communication at some point, so why not now? This is part 4 of Telepathy 101. Go back and watch my other earlier videos if you want to get caught up to here. So let's begin. On today's episode of Ask the Mystic, we're going to be getting into more of your discernment with your mind-to-mind communication abilities. What does that mean? So in the beginning, when you first start to experience direct mind-to-mind communication with another person, you're going to be wondering, is that in my head? Did that other person really communicate with me? Am I making this up? Am I hearing things, seeing things? This can't possibly be real, can it? And so what you're going to find out is that there is a way to determine if this is in your head or not. You need to keep a journal. You need to be keeping track of the experiences that you are having. You need evidence because you need to prove to your own consciousness, to your own mind, that you are really experiencing things. In the beginning, you're really going to wonder if you're doing it right. So it's a matter of tuning in. Think of your brain as if it is a radio dial. Think of your consciousness as if your consciousness itself is a radio and you are tuning in to a very specific frequency. You're not going to know how to operate that tuning dial perfectly when you're getting into it. You need to practice. Practice is so important. Yes, do go back and watch those earlier videos if you don't know what I'm talking about. With practice, you will more easily be able to identify who is requesting a conversation with you and where they're coming from. You'll be able to determine more information about their state of mind or their emotional state. If you do practice this for about 30 minutes a day with your practice partner or your friend or multiple people, you will probably be getting results within about a month and be able to determine very easily who it is that's trying to communicate with you mentally. So, how to be very sure that you're not making it up in your mind is you need to keep a journal. Keep a log of the dates, times, any sensations that come to your mind, any impressions that you might get. So, what you want to be paying attention to is, are you getting brand new information that you had no prior knowledge about? Is the information coming to you in a way that it doesn't normally make it into your mind? Is an idea, a thought, an image, a sound popping into your mind without any associative memory? Was this created through your mind or was it received? Pay very close attention to the train of thought. Follow each track to its origin. It's kind of like we're doing inception rules, but it's not a dream. So analyze deeply the origin of a thought. If it's associated with a memory that you're intentionally thinking about, it's very likely that nobody else is trying to tell you anything. And if you if you get something randomly and you do associate it with a person that you know, the best way to follow up on it is to get in touch with them and to verify, validate. Also, note the date and the time when this happens and any other information that's included with it. Follow up with the other person. That's how you validate your results. Don't try to analyze the information while it is coming in. When you receive information, continue receiving it, just record it. Don't try to figure it out mentally while you're receiving it. It will disrupt the process of you receiving the information. So just continue being receptive, get as much information as possible, and then record. Write it down, and then you can try to analyze it. But don't disrupt the flow of information while it is coming to you, and just continue practicing and noticing which of these trains of thoughts originated through your own consciousness and which ones are being received by it. After you've received all of that information, you can analyze where in the brain did you feel it? Did you notice that you felt it in a certain area of the brain? So was it in the back of the brain, the front of the brain, the center of the brain? Did it feel like your consciousness was opening up at the top like a funnel and information is just pouring in? Try to analyze and describe that for yourself. This isn't a test. It's not for anybody else to know. It's for you. Did you notice any changes in your gut? Did you notice any tension or relaxation? Did you get butterfly feelings in your gut? Pay attention and record all the information. Did you notice anything emotionally come up during that receptive time? Did you feel anything in the heart area? Did you feel an emotional disruption of any kind while you're receiving information? Did you experience your hair standing on end or goosebumps or anything like that? So pay attention to all of the signals that you are receiving physically, so that way you recognize next time when you receive information, it will usually come with a physical indicator. This will help you establish more trust with the physical experience of mind-to-mind communication. Coming up next, I'm going to talk about what happens if you ask a telepathic question open-ended. You're not addressing it to anyone particular. What kind of results can you expect from that? Do you know what can happen if you pose a telepathic question without an intended recipient? Let's find out. On today's episode of Ask the Mystic, I'm just continuing on this roll of Telepathy 101. So let's say, for example, you're just out on a nature walk and you just pose an open ended question and you are asking, say, for instance, the universe. There are many, many forms of consciousness in the universe. You wouldn't necessarily know if the information you receive in return could be a loved one on the other side, or maybe a thought form. You don't necessarily know if you are speaking with a concept of a deity or a multidimensional being. And that would be happening because you are not posing your question to a specific individual, name, etc. You need to be specific if you want to get specific answers. Also, let's say that you address your question specifically to an individual or to a group, a collective, if you will. If you ask, that does not obligate that other person or people to answer. Free will doesn't just go away because you have a psychic skill. You can't force unwanted contact in this realm. But let's say you ask your question from a heartfelt desire to learn, to connect, and to share in your authenticity, doing this for positive reasons, to be of benefit to your fellow life forms that you share this planet with. This will yield very positive results. If you think and act in ways that promote the well being of other life forms, you are much more likely to get a positive response. In general, in the telepathic realm, you're going to be treated like an adult, so act like one. If you are ready to receive answers to your questions, you will receive them, but you must know what you want to ask. What do you truly want to know? Okay, now that we've covered that, next we'll get into how do you know if someone is trying to contact you? It's going to be easily identifiable over time and with practice. Telepathic contact usually is indicated by a sudden knowing of information about the person who's trying to reach you. It's going to feel like it just popped into your head for no reason at all. You won't have an associative memory that comes with this when it occurs. Again, this might come with a physical sensation trigger, such as your hair standing up. You might feel a feeling in your gut, like a butterfly's sort of a feeling. You might feel either tension or relaxation. So pay attention and look at your notes about what it feels like for you. It's going to be unique to you. You may notice yourself wanting to turn the volume down on the external world around you so that you can focus in on what you are receiving mentally. You might get a feeling of, has someone just said my name? But if you don't recognize the voice, you need to be able to focus so that you know whose voice is saying your name. Physically, you might notice yourself reacting as if someone had just audibly said your name. The information can come to you in lots of different ways, so keep an open mind. Sometimes you will get a sense of location or distance. If you get a ping mentally, you might feel like you need to turn your whole body around and look right at where you perceive that this contact is coming from. You might be able to pick up even more information about the sender. Again, see if you can validate the name, the identity, any traits of that person, their emotional state, their mental state, what are they in the act of doing, etc. This also can happen when you cannot get another person out of your mind. You feel yourself thinking about this person repeatedly. This can be an indication that you are just obsessing. It can also be an indication that the other person is. Sometimes the contact will come like a shock wave. If you have a major life event happen in your family, you may feel pinged by multiple people at the same time. Now, if your primary means of communication is verbal, then typically you're going to find yourself receiving information as if someone is speaking to you. If your primary method of communication is more writing, you may find that the ideas that you receive mentally just pop right into your head. It's different for everyone, so just be paying attention to what that can be for you. Now, sometimes you will receive such a strong communication, or you may receive such an intense amount of information that you know that you couldn't have possibly come up with it on your own. It's beyond a flash of inspiration. It's beyond a eureka moment. It's a full on, feels like a download of full information about a topic or subject or something. And then you definitely know that this was not your own original idea. Your consciousness is simply a vessel, and the information is passing through you. You are like a conduit of the totality of consciousness itself. Consciousness doesn't just originate with you, you are part of it. You're part of the whole. So start thinking in those kind of terms. This will make it easier for you to adjust and get used to this way of communicating. So while I do recommend that we enter into mind to mind communication with politeness and respect, especially if we are not fully aware of who is communicating with us, I also would like to stress the importance of practices such as grounding and shielding. If you do not know what those are, I will make more content about that. But I do recommend that you look that up in the meantime. This will definitely help you in your practice. Also, if you've never heard of it, I recommend other meditation techniques such as the sitting with spirit meditation or sitting in the power meditation. You can find a whole lot of information about that also to help prepare you for getting into this state and get used to this becoming a normal part of your life if you should choose. Now, just like all cultures, everyone has customs, everyone has their own traditions, and everyone has their own way of showing up with respect, humility, and politeness. Inquire with them about how they would like to be communicated with, and see if from the very beginning you can turn it into an equal and even exchange of energy. That is the best way to approach this. All relationships should have this equal balance. So, before you bring up a particular subject, when you're communicating mind to mind, ask first if it's all right to bring up that subject and to go into it. So, be on your best behavior and have good manners. Get in the practice of being very aware of your thoughts and your feelings so that you can keep yourself well controlled in a mind to mind communication space, because you will get pinged and you will be very open and receptive to insight, other people or other forms of intelligence being able to see into you. So, this is not a place for secrets and it's not a place for lies. On the next part of this series, I'm going to talk to you about establishing telepathic contact with other forms of intelligence. Hey, lightworkers, listen the F up if you are interested in affecting change on a consciousness level in the world around you. This is the video for you. Also know this is not the only place that you can find me, the Syrian sage. So don't lose me. I can help you. Okay, let's go. We are going to talk today about initiating mind to mind communication with a telepathic nation. So, the first thing you want to do is introduce yourself. You can visualize that you are wearing a name tag that says, "Hello, my name is." But just know that it is a good idea to introduce yourself first. Imagine like it's any other kind of polite conversation in which you're meeting someone for the first time. If the other party or parties wants to know more information about you after they have your name, they can get that information if they want to. Now, it is not as easy as you might think to keep your thoughts well under control, but just imagine that someone that you respect very highly is able to poke inside your mind and probe in your thoughts. Okay, it can be like that sometimes. So this is why I stressed the earlier points of self-control and self-acceptance, emotional regulation. All of these things are important. It's important to have a practice of meditation so you can keep yourself well grounded in centered in yourself. When you do establish contact, you will also want to establish your intent and communicate your intent. So just keep in mind, it's not your brain that they are interacting with as much as your heart and the coherence between the two. You will be held accountable for not just your thoughts, but your true heart, your true intent, your true self. So be good at being accountable to yourself. Remember, mind to mind communication is not a place for lies and dishonesty or secrets. When you establish contact, do not interrupt the flow of that contact until the communication is fully completed. Do not disrupt it by trying to analyze the experience. Allow it to complete fully until you receive an indication that the signal has ended. This means be very careful about following up with logical, analytical questions. Hold off on your questions until it's complete, just like you wait till you ask questions until the class is finished. You will have time later to get into the details of the analysis and go as deep as you want to go and tease the whole thing apart. But right now, just focus on receiving everything very clearly. Again, establishing contact does not guarantee that you will be received openly by the party or parties that you're trying to connect with. Pay attention. If you get a no, you might get silence. You might notice that the connection is intentionally disrupted by them. So, the more that you are tuned into yourself, the easier it will be to pick up on what kind of information you're receiving back, because not all of us are going to receive it audibly. Not all of us are going to receive information visually. Sometimes it will just be a knowing. So if it's like that for you, if you just get a sudden knowing of things, it's important to trust yourself and trust your own intuition with your accuracy. And when the conversation is over, make sure that you thank them for their time. Be polite, say goodbye, see you next time, whatever. If you want to keep communicating with them in the future, make sure that you tell them that. Okay, that's all I'm going to share in this episode. The next one, we're going to talk about the kind of ontological shock and overwhelm that can happen after you do get validation and results from your experiments. Hello again, Starshine. We're back for another part in the series on Telepathy 101, so sit down and get cozy. Today we're going to be talking about the ontological shock experience of realizing that mind-to-mind communication is a very real phenomena and you have just experienced it. When that happens, a whole lot of other big emotions can happen. So let's talk about it on today's episode of Ask the Mystic. I'm Syrian Sage. I would say I'm not long for TikTok, but you can find me in all kinds of other places if you just know my name, Syrian Sage. And that is Sirius as in the star, not the country. A typical experience for those of us who are able to do this mind-to-mind communication is that the first time that you ever experience it, it can be very overwhelming, shocking, and it can be kind of like an uncanny sort of experience. Most people, if they've never experienced it before, will feel physically, emotionally, mentally just overwhelmed. Bewildered might be a good word for it. If you experience a telepathic encounter that lasts for a long amount of time, where you maintain that connection for longer and longer periods of time, eventually you will get the catch-up effect. For some of us, it's going to feel like it hits like a ton of bricks. When you have an idea of the enormity of what you've just experienced and what its implications are, it's normal to feel completely undone. It's really like waking up from the Matrix, where you have an idea of just how expansive and multidimensional reality is around you. It will really challenge whatever beliefs or worldviews that you had before about reality, about yourself, about other people, about the bigger picture of things. So don't let it discourage you. Call your practice buddy and talk about it. Just have a normal conversation with somebody that you know and can trust. Take some time to do some grounding, especially after you experience mind-to-mind communication. So like just do some normal human things. Do some chores around your house or do some laundry. Eat some food, go for a walk, get your body moving. Get used to being back in the normal human experience that you've been accustomed to this whole time. Over time, you're going to get more used to having mind-to-mind communication with others, and you're still going to have days that feel very psychologically draining. Remember that you don't have to take on everything all at once as far as mind-to-mind communication is concerned. So pace yourself. This means, take a break, relax, do your self-care. This is a journey of 1,000 steps, so just, count those steps carefully. It's not a race, and it's not a competition. This is a really good opportunity for you to practice being emotionally honest with yourself. Let the feelings flow through you. Don't try to stuff them down or suppress them. Allow yourself the experience. Even as you notice emotions from other contacts that you may receive, remember to stay in a state of observation and try to remain detached from absorbing other people's emotions. Allow yourself to observe, discern, notice, and to be in a state of awareness. Don't absorb yourself into other people's emotions as much. Notice that you're feeling them, that you're aware of them, but there's a difference between other people's emotions and your own. And just because this might be a lot to experience, this does not mean that your discernment for what's true or what's false should go away. Keep your wits about you. Now, if you experience a very major form of communication or a very big, powerful, emotional message, give yourself the time to take a break, do your grounding exercises. So that means do your normal day-to-day human life things. Maybe take a bath or a shower, whatever works for you. Care for the physical body, care for the nervous system response. Call a friend if you need to, take a break. Let this be a normal part of your experience, but don't overwhelm yourself and try to keep doing it constantly once you've had that first big contact. Pace yourself. That's the important part. There's going to be enough time for you to learn all of it. Think about yourself like you are a sponge. You can only absorb so much before you need to sublimate or to allow for the evaporation or whatever of the content that you've just absorbed. Anyway, I'm sure there's other good analogies for the experience. Some people describe it like, think about it like you're a jello mold and there's only so many fruit pieces that will fit into the jello mold before it won't even set up anymore. But whatever works. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And if you want to get more mind-to-mind communication information and practice tips and all of that, go find the Syrian Sage and all the other places. Let's stay in touch and be friends. I am committed to a path of helping humanity awaken to their spiritual gifts.